good thing I read ebooks and not physical books, because if I did read physical books, I would absolutely have to take one of those photos of the pile of books falling over on me for the thumbnail of this video, and I don't want to do that. I have a fear of getting hit in the face by books. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel, and buckle up because I've got some big reading plans for March and I am so excited to share them with you guys. This is, of course, my March TBR. I'm doing 2 readathons and 2 buddy reads this month, so I thought I had better get myself organized and make a proper official TBR, which I don't know, do I do that most months? I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at the videos, but I do feel like I make them pretty often, even if I took a bit of a break in February. Anyways, too much rambling. I'm so excited about these books. Let's chat about them. I'm going to start by talking about the 2 buddy reads I'll be doing in March, both of which I am incredibly excited for. The first is Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism by Kristen Ghodsee. I'm reading this as a buddy read with Emrita of Emrita by the Book and Katie of Katie Reads and Rants, and it sounds amazing. I bought this one almost a year ago now, I think. Maybe less? Was it 7 months? Anyways, I've been looking forward to reading this for ages, and I'm so glad to finally be actually putting it on the TBR because it's a buddy read. I'm gonna have to read it, and I know I'm going to enjoy it so much. This is an essay collection all about the various ways capitalism and socialism differently affect women's lives. Partly about sex, but also about things like labor and women's participation in the workforce and women's work in the home and various things like this. I've heard some great reviews and I'm really excited to read it. Next, or I guess probably at the same time, knowing me, I'm reading American Cuisine and How It Got This Way by Paul Freedman. This is a buddy read with Kim from Bookmarks and Breadsticks, and I am so excited about it. And yes, I do need to stop saying I'm so excited about everything, but like, I am so excited about everything. Anyways, this is one of those books that basically says it all in the title, I think. American Cuisine and How It Got This Way. A history of food in America from, I think, like colonial days through the present, and the various factors that have influenced American cuisine and the various movements it's gone through and why certain changes have happened and things like that. It sounds so fascinating. Does that not sound like a book that I am going to adore? This one is a bit of a chunky book, so it's kind of intimidating. You know I'm not always great at getting into those. No, I'm not gonna say I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I'm reading it as a buddy read because I find that can really help when you've got maybe some weekly goals and it doesn't feel just like you're sitting down with a massive book. It's more, okay, I'm spreading this over a month. I mean, the last massive book I read for a buddy read was in February and it ended up being so gripping that we read it in like 2 weeks instead of a month, but hey, that's a fine outcome too. In addition to the buddy reads, I also mentioned that I have 2 readathons I'm doing in March, and they're both month-long readathons, so it's not like I've got one for 1 week and another for another week. I'm gonna be doing them at the same time, probably interspersing the books a little. This following disclaimer goes for both of them, so I'm gonna say it now. I'm not gonna be trying to hit all the prompts for these. I'm not gonna try and black out a bingo board, or frankly, even get a bingo, probably, because my rule for readathons is that I can't buy new books to do a readathon. If I want to do a readathon, I have to fill it from books that I already own. Reason being that I own so many unread books, and as longtime viewers will know, I'm trying to slowly work my way through them. No TBR 0 goals or anything like that, but I do want to read these books that I'm really excited about. So I tend to use readathons more as a way to dive into sort of the depths of my TBR list and discover books that maybe I've forgotten about, or maybe I just haven't been prioritizing. You know the books, the ones where you see them and you always think, that looks great, I need to read it, but you never quite pick it up. I find readathons can be great for making me actually go and say, ooh, yes, I am going to read that book. On the other hand, I'm also trying to not really start too many new series, which further limits my choices because a lot of the books I have on my TBR, not a lot, but a fair number of them are books in series. So once I've read down some of the series I'm reading, there's a whole bunch of videos about that if you want to know more, then I can start some new ones. But for now, I'm trying to really focus on the priority books in the series and not starting new ones. This was such a long introduction, I'm sorry. The first readathon I'm going to be doing, or it's not first because They're at the same time. But the one that I decided to participate in first is March of the Moderns, which is being organized by Margaret Pinard. I will link her announcement video down below. Be sure to check that out if you're interested. This is all about reading books that were published between, I think it's 1901 and 1945. So the end of Queen Victoria's reign and the end of World War II. That's a period that, other than Agatha Christie, I really have not read much from as far as I can remember. So this will be interesting. I've split my TBR into two sections for March of the Moderns because there's some books that don't add anything to the bingo board, but that I'm still interested in reading. So I've got 3 that I definitely want to read, and then 2 that if I get through the first 3 and I've got time in the month, I want to pick up, but I might not get to, and I'm not going to put as much pressure on myself to read those ones because you guys know that when I say I'm going to read a book, I put so much pressure on myself to actually get it read, and there's a lot of books on this TBR already, so I didn't need more pressure. The first book on my March of the Moderns TBR is Khufu's Wisdom by Naguib Mahfouz. This was first published in 1939, and it fits the prompts of translated work, BIPOC author, and hot setting. Yes, because it's set in Egypt, which, although I have never been, it looks very hot. This is actually historical fiction about ancient Egypt, so I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I think it's pretty literary from the description I read, but it does sound kind of cool to read historical fiction that was written in the past. Does that sound cool to everyone else? It sounds cool to me. I've never read anything by this author. What happened is that when I first got my Kindle about 5 years ago, I went on a bit of a spree of filling it up with books because I was about to go traveling and I knew I wasn't going to have Wi-Fi for stretches of time, and I wanted to make sure that I had a variety of things to read and I wasn't going to run out of reading material. So I was Googling all sorts of things, and one of the things I Googled was, you know, what are some diverse classics? And Mahfouz came up. So I was like, oh, cool. You know what? These are pretty cheap. I'm gonna get like 20 of them or something, which I have learned my lesson. I no longer buy all of an author's works without reading any of them. But what's happened is I bought all those books and I have never read any of them because at the time that I bought them, I wasn't interested in reading classics at all. Why I thought diverse classics were going to suddenly make me someone who read classics, I don't know. It didn't. But now that I'm getting kind of into that genre and it fit the time period, so I was like, well, I'm gonna try it because I don't have that many books on my TBR list that fit this time period, so why not? This book is the first in a trilogy, and I know I just said that I was trying to not start too many new series, but it's pretty short. It's only like 250 pages, and both of the sequels are quite short as well, so I figure it doesn't hurt to give it a try. Maybe I'll like it and they'll be quick to read. That would be great. Maybe I'll read it and I won't like it and then I won't want to continue the series. And it's sort of like no harm either way, right? The next book on my TBR is The Dogs and the Wolves by Irene Nemirovsky. This was first published in 1940, and I think this one might also be translated. I'm not positive. But it's a woman author, it's about an artist, and it is in a cold setting, I'm assuming. I don't know for sure that it's a cold setting, although part of it takes place in Eastern Europe, which is cold for at least half of the year, so fairly high chance, but like, look at that cover. She looks like she's in a cold setting, so I'm going to assume that it is. This is one of those books with a very long description that I have no idea how to summarize, and I'm not even sure I totally understand. I mean, I understand the words in the description, but I'm not sure I totally understand what the vibe of this book is going to be or how it's going to play out. From what I do know, it's about Ada, a poor Jewish woman who I think has been sort of shuffled between various relatives since her mother died, and she finds herself in Paris. I think there's a love story aspect. I think the love interest is like a wealthy guy from a financial family or something. As I said, I'm not really sure. It seems to span several decades and take place in many countries throughout Europe and captures the feeling of Europe in the lead up towards World War II, I think. This is one of those books that hasn't been on my TBR quite as long as the last one, but I distinctly remember seeing it in a bookstore when I was traveling somewhere and picking it up and looking at it, but because I was traveling, I mean, I could go into a bookstore and buy 40 books. I once did return from New York with a bag from the Strand that was like, I can't get far enough back. It was huge. It was a huge bag full of books. But I learned my lesson because that was very complicated to bring home with me. I wasn't gonna buy a physical copy right then, but I saw it in the bookstore and I have no idea where I was. I kind of suspect it might have been in Perth, Australia, but I don't know. Anyways, I saw it and I bought the ebook after the fact because it sounded interesting, and then Story of my life, I never actually got around to reading it. And I know this author has a couple other books, and I think is fairly well liked, so I kind of want to try this one and see if she's an author I want to read more from. The last book that I am definitely going to be reading is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, which was first published in 1929. This one also fits the woman author prompt and is also non-fiction because it is an essay. It's quite a long essay though. I think it's about 120 pages, and in it, from what I know, Woolf lays out her argument for why we don't have a female equivalent of Shakespeare, and why without financial means and a room of her own, a woman couldn't create or didn't have the same opportunities to create great literary works like men did in the past. I'm really hoping that a lot of the points Woolf raises in this will be issues that we've sort of resolved or moved forward from in the intervening almost 100 years. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not optimistic, and I'm kind of afraid that there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that I'm going, yeah, that's still a problem. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I mentioned that there were also 2 books that I'm hoping to read, but I'm not gonna make myself read. If they don't fit in, they don't fit in. It's okay. And the first of those is Malguidi Days by R.K. Narayan. This was first published in 1943, I think? Yes, that is what my notes say, 1943. And it is by a BIPOC author, and it is set in a hot climate because it is set in southern India, which haven't been there myself, but from everything I understand, is very hot. This is a collection of short stories that is set in a fictional city in southern India, I think. Again, I'm not totally sure and I'm not totally familiar, but from what I understand, Narayan has sort of a collection of works that I don't think are exactly a series, but which all take place in this one city, Malguidi, that he sort of created for his writing. I acquired this book and a whole host of his other works in the same going on a gap year? You probably need to take like 100 diverse classics with you spree that I mentioned above. And again, I just have never actually gotten to reading, so I love readathons for stuff like this, for making me actually pick up these books that sounded interesting to get and that I never prioritize. I'm actually really excited about this one though, because it's a short story collection, which I love myself some short stories, and I think I read somewhere online that his writing is quite readable and approachable, so that sounds promising. The last book I might read for March of the Moderns is Parnassus on Wheels by Christopher Morley, which from what I can tell was first published in 1917. I don't think this one fills any of the prompts other than I guess the free or bonus square. Parnassus on Wheels is about a woman who buys a traveling bookstore. I think it's basically like a cart with a horse full of books, and this guy has a business of driving it around and coming to a town and selling his books and then packing up and driving to another place and selling books, and she buys this business from him, and I don't really know what happens then. I assume something will happen. This is a very short book though. I mean, arguably more of a novella. I think it's like 80 pages. It's another one that I've had on my Kindle for 5 years now and have never got to, so I mean, I'm gonna give it a try. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't, but at 80 pages you can't really go wrong. So as you can see, I won't achieve a bingo for this readathon. I might be able to fill in a few more squares once I've read some of the books, because some of these are sort of thematic things or things that I don't think I can really tell from the blurb. So maybe once I've read these, I'll be able to fill in a few more, but we'll see. As I said, I'm not too concerned about that. I'm more really excited to be reading all of these books that have been lingering on my Kindle for so long, and they deserve to be read. The second readathon I'm going to be doing is March Mystery Madness, which is, I just love that name. I saw the announcement for this on Janelle of Too Fond of Books' channel, but there are 2 hosts and about 1 million co-hosts, so I'm just gonna link her video down below. Go watch that one. It has all of the information in the description, and yeah, there's just so much information for this one, so be sure to check that video out if you want to know more. The prompts for this readathon are based on the title, so for example, the prompt single is a book with a single word title, etc. Again, Janelle explains it super well in her video, so I'm not going to try and get into it again here. I'm planning to read Death at Victoria Docks by Kerry Greenwood. This is for the place prompt because the Victoria Docks are a place in Melbourne. I mean, I don't know if they are now, but in the 1920s when this is set, they were. This is the 4th Franny Fisher novel, and for me, of course, a reread. Do rereads count in readathons? I don't know. This is my channel. It's my TBR. I'm saying for me they do. From what I remember, this book involves a missing teenage girl, a union strike, and anarchists, and it was fantastic, so I'm really looking forward to rereading this one. Then I'm planning to read Crocodile on the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters. This is for the space prompt, which Janelle described as something more general than a place. So where Victoria Docks is like a specific place, space is something more general. And I figure a sandbank is a general space. This is the first in the Amelia Peabody series, which I think features a wealthy heiress who's on the hunt for adventure. I mean, you guys know I love Phryne Fisher, so I feel like I am going to love her and I'm going to love these books. I'm also filled with confidence because I first discovered this series when Emrita recommended it on her channel, and I mean, she has incredible taste, so I can't see where I could possibly go wrong with this. I know that this is another first in a series, and I'm not supposed to be doing that. Bad Rosie. My defense for this one is that yes, it is a series. Yes, there are something like 10 or 12 books. However, I will be listening to this one on audiobook from Scribd, and I'm pretty sure most of the sequels, if not all of them, are also available on Scribd. So it's not really a new series that I'm starting because everyone knows that while audiobooks are absolutely real reading, it's a totally different system for my TBR. Yes, that is probably total bullshit, but that's okay. I'm going with it. I'm fine. I'm at peace. It sounds too good to resist. Next up, I want to read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, and I'm going to read this for the person prompt because Roger Ackroyd is a person, presumably in the book. I assume he gets murdered, and it's in the title. I know I said recently, I think in my series maybe video, that you shouldn't expect to see Agatha Christie on too many TBRs, even if I do plan on continuing to read her works. And ordinarily that would be the case. I mean, it's a mystery readathon. I've got to get some Christie in there, especially when I've been really looking forward to reading The Murder of Roger Ackroyd because everyone says it's amazing. I've heard so many people say it's like their favorite Christie. I haven't totally decided yet how I'm going to read this one. I might read the ebook or I might listen to the audiobook, and I think it'll be sort of good. I can sort of see how my month is going and see how much reading time I have and how I'm getting through things, and then make my decision from there. On to a book that should have made it onto a TBR months ago and hasn't yet. I'm really keen to read Wyntertide by Andrew Caldecott. I'm reading this for the single prompt because it is a single word title. Arguably, yes, I could probably read this for weather and time as well. Winter is weather adjacent. Wyntertide is a time of year, so that's time adjacent. But I'm not going for a blackout, so I'm just going to count it for single. This is the sequel to Rather Weird and is part fantasy, part mystery, but it does definitely have a mystery component, so I think it's fair to include. And as I said, I'm really dying to read this book, and if this is a way that I can get it on my TBR now and not leave it for another year, I'm definitely going to take that chance. The last book is Dreadful Company by Vivian Shaw. This doesn't fit any of the explicit prompts, so I'm going to put it in the bonus square. That's what the bonus square is there for, right? The book that you want to read that doesn't fit the prompts. This is a sequel to Strange Company, which I absolutely loved in 2020, and is like Wyntertide. It's a fantasy slash mystery type book, but in a totally different way. This is very urban fantasy, but in a vibe that I just love. I'll know how to describe it better when I do my wrap up because, as I said, it has been a little while since I read the first book. I'm just really excited to get back into this world. In this one, Dr. Greta Helsing, who is a doctor to the undead, travels to Paris for a medical conference and finds some uncivilized vampires, presumably wreaking havoc, and has to deal with that situation. As I said, this is another one that I've been hoping to read for a really long time, so even if it's maybe more fantasy than mystery, see the above, it's my TBR, I'll do what I want. That brings me to the end of the books I want to read. It's 10 books I definitely want to read, of which 2 could be audiobooks, plus a possible 2 extra. But I think 12 might actually be doable. I'm cautiously optimistic. A lot of these books are short. Some of them are chunky. There's definitely a couple 500-page-ish ones in here, but a lot of them are also less than 300 pages, and a couple of the March of the Moderns books are around 100 pages, so I think it should be doable. After all, would it be a TBR on my channel if it wasn't just a touch over ambitious. So that's what I want to read in March. Let me know down below, what books are on your TBR? What are you excited to be reading? Are you doing any readathons? Also, are there any of these books that sound particularly interesting or like you particularly want me to do a review on them? I've got a couple of video slots open in March where I want to do a book review, but I haven't quite decided which of these I should review yet. So if there's any that jump out at you as like, you need to hear about that, please let me know down below. As always, if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.